So we're getting into the holiday season, and a lot of people have Christmas cactus or Thanksgiving cactus, and there's even an Easter cactus as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So you can see here some sketches of the leaves, and for the Thanksgiving cactus, the edges of the leaves are serrated, they come to a point. And then the Christmas cactus also has some serrations on the leaves, but they're more smooth. And then the Easter cactus has some very small serrations, but you can't see them very well. So there are definitely some differences between them. And the Easter cactus typically has a kind of a star-shaped flower. So that's a way that you can tell the difference also. Now, these are all very closely related and require the same care. And we're going to talk about the care in just a moment. So one thing that I love about Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter cactus is that they are very long lived and they're often passed down as family heirlooms. And you can see here a picture of a family with a Christmas cactus that's probably been around for a long, long time. And actually, while I was putting together today's presentation, I got to reading a lot of stories about Christmas cactus and how they're passed down from generation to generation. Some can be as old as 100 years old, and so they're just a really special plant. So I want to talk a little bit today about care of these plants so that you can keep yours around for a long time as well. So something interesting about these holiday cactus is that they are actually epiphytes, and epiphytes mean that they grow on the surface of another plant, and they get their moisture and nutrients from the air, from rain, from water, or from debris that collects there where it's attached to the tree. And they originate from tropical rainforests of South America, and they're naturally found growing on trees, sometimes rock crevices, and they like filtered light and high humidity. So keep that in mind when you're caring for your particular holiday cactus. They like filtered light and high humidity. So, like I mentioned before, the care is the same for all three of these types of plants. They actually thrive more on neglect than they do tender, loving care. That's why a lot of times they do live for a long, long time, is because they can survive with some neglect. I know if plants survive in my house, they have to be prepared to get a little neglect sometimes, and my Christmas cactus do just fine. But they do need a well-drained potting mix, one that's going to hold moisture, but yet it also is well-drained. And you don't want these plants setting in water saturated soil for long periods of time because they're very prone to root rot. So keep the soil evenly moist from spring through summer, but from fall to spring, you want to let the soil dry out quite a bit between waterings, and you don't want to water unless the soil is dry to the touch. And then as we get into late winter or early spring, fertilize monthly throughout the summer. And you want to use just a soluble plant fertilizer. Use it at about a quarter of the strength that the recommendations are on the container. So if it tells you to mix up the fertilizer at a certain strength, only use a quarter of that, because these types of cactus have a very fine root system. And if you use too strong of a fertilizer, it can damage that root system. So give your Christmas cactus high light during the winter. So if you have a sunny window that doesn't get direct light, that would be perfect for a Christmas cactus. But in the summer, they can actually be put outdoors if they're not in direct light. So keep that in mind as well. Don't expose your plants to freezing temperatures. They will not overwinter outdoors. So keep that in mind. They do like humidity, and sometimes that's hard in our homes in the middle of the winter. So you can add some humidity around your plant by putting it on a tray of pebbles, and I've got a picture of that here. Now, one thing about Christmas cactus is they don't like to be transplanted into a larger pot. And a lot of people get in trouble if they try to repot it too often. The general rule of thumb is about every 2 to 3 years, and they like to be a little bit root bound. That actually stresses the plant and can encourage additional blooms. So if you do think that it needs repotted, use new potting soil, and you can use potting soil that's packaged for African violets or orchids or the mix that I mentioned previously. And then I often get asked about woody stems on these type of cactus, and that's actually just an indication of the age of the plant and a healthy plant, so it's perfectly normal. So to encourage flower bud formation, again, let that soil dry out a little bit between waterings. You want that soil to be dry to the touch. And you want to start this in late summer and then move your plant to a brighter, cool location. So holiday cactus need those cooler conditions in the fall in order to set flower buds. Now, Christmas and Thanksgiving cactus require about 6 weeks of short days to bloom. Easter cactus requires about 8 to 12 weeks, so that's why it blooms around Easter each year. And then I often get questions about why do my flower buds drop? And that can happen anytime there's a sharp difference in temperatures, the watering schedules changed, or the light intensities change. Sometimes these types of cactus just like to be left alone in a certain spot. And when they start to be moved around or you've done something different, it can cause them to drop flower buds. Now, something really interesting about these type of cactus, and most of you probably know this if you have these, is that they can be pruned and shaped very easily, and they can be propagated very easily. Sometimes these types of cactus get really long leaf shoots on there, and that's perfectly fine if you don't want to give them a pruning. But if you do, you can do it really easily with just sharp scissors, or you can just even pinch off some of those leaf segments as well and kind of give it a uniform shape. And then those segments that you remove can easily be propagated into new plants. And you can do it several different ways. You can put a leaf segment of 2 or 3 leaves into water and it'll start to grow roots, and then you can plant it in soil. They can be dipped in rooting hormone and put directly in soil. And sometimes they don't even need rooting hormone. They'll just produce roots on their own in the soil. They can be laid flat on the soil and they'll start to produce roots and go down in the soil. And then sometimes they just produce roots on their own. You could see here the picture in the middle on the top, there's roots just growing on there anyway. So they're very, very easy to propagate. And this is a great way to make new starts of an heirloom plant that you can share with family members. So the blooms come in many different colors, and you may have seen some of these different colors. They'll start to pop up in the stores this time of the year. So you might want to try collecting some of the different colors. And again, the Easter cactus flowers have more of a star-shaped appearance. And then I wanted to show this one as well to end out with. I mean, you can do all kinds of things with pruning on your plant, or you can just do nothing at all, and they'll be beautiful either way. But kind of some ending thoughts on this is, again, they can take some neglect and still be just fine. So certainly keep that in mind.